We have a philosophy, and that's mortgage lending made easy.
We list it, and then we're in it together, like a marriage until it closes.
Hello.
Well, hello.
Welcome back to Up to Date with Real Estate with David and Claire. We're happy to see you here.
I'm
Claire.
David.
Are you? That might be Claire today. Why not? Funny.
Yes,
So how are you?
I'm wonderful.
What are we talking about today?
So, since we talked about the whole pre-qual thing, so I thought it'd be interesting. So, what happens after you get pre-qualified?
Okay.
Or what does that entail? Or
Sure. The next part after the pre-qualification would be taking that pre-qualification back to your real estate agent, who then will bring you out to find a home, find a place to live. You know, and what does that look like on your side?
so, you know what? I'm going to back up for a minute
Okay.
because I think it's really important. I
All right.
jumped that. So the pre-qual. So let's talk about credit. Because
Okay.
I think that's so interesting.
All right.
Because don't you hear all these commercials about Credit Karma?
Yes.
Just got to check my credit at Credit Karma first.
Just checking my free credit score at Credit Karma.
There's
Do anything?
many different
yes.
services
But
that you can get
everything's
credit
with
from.
Credit Karma.
Well, there's Credit Karma. There's also like Capital One has a service.
Yes.
American Express has a service. I believe Discover may have a service
Yes.
where they can actually give you a reporting on your a score or a history, if you will.
So how much of that is accurate compared to a credit check that Cheney Mortgage will do?
Well, it all depends on what formula, what algorithm that they're using. The mortgage industry and the majority of the services that you're going to have your credit score have a weight or bearing on uses the Fair Isaac, which is the FICO score. Some of the services that offer you credit scores, they do not show you what your FICO score is, they show you what a Vantage score is,
Okay.
which is not necessarily the same thing. Risk predictors that are within Fair Isaac and the FICO score, those are the benchmarks by which mortgage lending companies make decisions.
So just say somebody ran something on Credit Karma and it said 670. What would that, do you know, would that be accurate?
It's completely useless to me.
Really?
Yes, because the score at Credit Karma or services like that, it's not to say that they're not correct, because sometimes they are correct. They use a different indicator. And based on that scoring model, there are different offers you can get. There's talk even of mortgage lending going and using those scores. But at this moment, at the time we're filming this now, Fair Isaac, FICO score is the indicator. That's the predicated score for all of this to take place. So the difference between a Vantage score and a Fair Isaac score sometimes could be as much as 60 points. So you could come in and think you have fair credit, which is okay for some loans, at a 670, and your true score may be a 740, which is good credit, really good credit, you know, or it could be as low as 600, you know, which is not really good credit,
Right.
and it can disqualify you from many programs. What it is good for you, though, what it's really good for, using services like that through your credit card or through these other third-party MyFICO, Credit Karma, et cetera. There's a bunch of them out there. I think MyFICO actually does FICO scores, though. But the idea would be any of those services, what they can do for you is give you a history, and you can see your credit as it's been being reported, because those reports do come through the credit bureaus.
Okay.
It's just the way they score them are different. So you've got TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian are the three major credit bureaus that you pull your credit score from.
Okay.
And the difference between a Vantage and a Fair Isaac is going to be how that information is run through an algorithm. What does that mean as far as how likely you are to become delinquent on a loan in the next, say, 2 to 3 years?
So let me ask you a question. Say you don't have any credit. Is that just as bad as having bad credit?
It's worse. To finish up on the other thing with where the credit scores come from, to really truly get an answer of what your credit score is like, you don't have to necessarily know your credit score per se. You just want your credit to be good. And the way you do that is to make sure your credit is being paid on time, to make sure that everything is current, and make sure there are no erroneous reports of you owing money, perhaps on a medical collection or on an old account that you forgot about. Or in my case, I moved out of my town and moved back, almost 9 years later, and the cable company had said I owed them $17 for 9 years. So you just don't know what's out there unless you
Right.
look, and then you've got to look. And a place you should go is there's annualcreditreport.com. You have every year you can get your credit report at no charge, so you can see what's going on there. And if you find something that's not accurate, you can dispute it right through the system there, directly through Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion, and they go through a process to help you correct that. Now, going back to the other thing you had said about what's more difficult, having no credit or having poor credit. Having no credit is more difficult because there's no way of telling what you may do. There's no history, there's no track record. Can't put a finger on it. You can't figure it out. If you've got bad credit, you can measure specifically what type of behaviors are you going to exhibit. Therefore, inside the models for each credit extender, if you will, creditor, you can say through a credit card company, through a credit club, a credit union, or we should have Fred come back and maybe tell about it because I don't know much about credit unions, but I can say that if you have a score, you've got a history, and if you have a history, you have habits, and if you have habits, we can then more or less pretty accurately predict what you have a likelihood to do, how you may pay your bills. Okay, and that does not mean that if you've gone through a bad situation, that is your ultimate representation. Because if you've gone through, say, an accident and you had bills pile up and you were late, and it's because it was due to a specific event in your life,
Right.
a death in the family, an accident where you were incapacitated for a period of time, unemployment due to a situation out of your control, fraud where someone stole your identity, all of these things can be overcome. And those are one-offs. So it's a soup. You've got to figure out the person. You have to figure out their situation. You have to make an educated guess based on their past, what they've done before, because that's an excellent predictor of what they're going to do tomorrow. And in situations which you can explain very clearly, this is what happened. It used to be all the difference in the world, because before everything was run on credit, it was run through references and character. And if you could explain what had happened and people understood what had happened to you as an individual, they can make decisions based on your situation. Now it's based and run in a sterile environment where you have nothing but a score. You're black and white and on a paper. And with that, you have other steps you have to go through to clear up whatever misconceptions may be out there. So, it's good and bad in many ways. There's a lot of good that's come through it, and then some situations you have an uphill battle to clear out whatever may have clouded the situation. But the whole non-credit thing, to be able to overcome that, it's a situation where you can go to your bank, your credit union, and get a secured credit card and start to pay back money that you've already put there to build credit history.
So let's talk about perfect scenario. Somebody has good credit, they apply for their mortgage, they have their mortgage, they've gone through the process, and will their credit be checked again before they close on the house?
Trust but verify. Yes, it will
Yes.
be. Because when you pull credit on someone, and many times for some, it's going to be a first-time homebuyer situation. And you can't just say to one group of people that because of who you are, we're going to act this way. So because of situations where you have an unpredictability, you've got to blanket everyone becomes subject to the same ramifications of what has proven to be a significant predictor in the marketplace. So what you have is you have situations where when you go to apply for a mortgage, you will have a credit that's showing what you've done in the past.
Right.
And you will go through the process of preparing to buy a home. And prior to your closing, they want to verify that you haven't gone off the deep end.
Which means,
You haven't purchased a car, you haven't
Furniture.
bought furniture, you haven't, bought a vacation home in Florida, or well, who wants to buy a vacation home in Florida? I'm kidding, Florida's fine. But I'm just saying, if you want to buy, something big, large purchases, it's they want to make sure that you're responsible up into the ownership of a home. So you haven't put yourself in a situation where you cannot afford that house. And it's important because debt ratios are a predictor just as much as a FICO score is.
yeah. Well, I had told you that story,
Yes, you did.
that I was at a home inspection and waiting for my client, and he pulls up in this beautiful, shiny F-250,
Brand new truck.
brand new, and said, "This is my new truck. It's going to help me move."
Wow.
And I said, "Oh my gosh, you just bought it?" He said, "Yeah, I just picked it up last night." We never closed on the house. Not good. So you can't,
Yes.
so a lot of people, a lot of realtors, a lot of bankers say, mortgage officers will say, don't finance anything until you close. Nothing.
Well, right. Essentially, what happens is, and I don't know what happened in that situation, but what I can say is there are things that do have an impact on your credit score. And what's great about those systems, like we talked about before, Credit Karma and the other, they actually give you some guidance as to what impact certain things have on your score.
Well, I can
And
tell
opening-
you what happened with that, because he bought the truck because he bought furniture.
So,
So when he closed, he
Okay.
was going to bring.
but he bought it all on credit.
Yes.
Okay, all
And
right.
so it just dove
Sure.
his.
Well, the reason for that is because a couple of things happened there. One, opening a new account, it's going to impact the length of credit.
Well, it was actually two.
Well, if just
Yes.
one, but if you're now doing two, what you're doing, not only are you opening new accounts, one, two, both of them, in effect, affecting the overall average length of credit, which affects your credit score. You also have utilization, which means when you make those purchases, especially purchases like that, where you have closed-end purchases, where you have, say, a loan for $10,000 and you have used 10,000 of the 10,000, that's high utilization, which has an impact on your credit score. And when you purchase the furniture, the same situation, you've purchased $7,000 worth of furniture, you have a $7,000 limit, and you use $7,000 of that limit, again, you have another predictor saying that you are a high risk. Now, there are different weights to different types of accounts, but it changes not the fact that they have an impact on your credit score. And if you are on a line of one credit score to another, which could have an impact on the cost of borrowing money, as it's called by, it's called loan level pricing adjustments. You have, the more risks you present, the higher the cost of borrowing money is, because it's higher risk to the extender of credit that they may suffer a loss. So they have to compensate, and they want you to be able to borrow money, but they have to make sure that that pool of people who are representative in that category and the risks that they present, that they are guarding the house so they don't then suffer losses to the extent that's going to become detriment to the company. And that's such a poor guy, really. I mean,
Was
gets a brand new
awful.
truck, buys the furniture, and I was going to know where to put it. That's a terrible situation.
It was horrible.
But it happens, and we've all seen it happen. If you've been in business long enough, you see people make these mistakes, and the only thing you can do is try to help manage expectations and helping people understand that when you make inquiries, there is an impact on your credit. When you open new accounts, there's an impact on your credit. When you close an account, there's an impact on your credit. Even if you have an account open and you charge up on your credit card in anticipation, and you use more of your credit card, that's an impact on your credit, So you want to be able to be cognizant of the fact that things that you do are going to have an end result as it relates to how you're able, what you're able to borrow, how much you're able to borrow, and at what cost.
I don't think people know that.
They do now.
They do now. Yes, they do. So I guess that'll be the topic that we cover today.
Sure.
So next time we'll do what happens after you get pre-approved and your credit is awesome.
And maybe you can talk some more next time.
Well, I think you like to talk.
Well, you know,
Yeah. Maybe we'll tape.
all right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you
you.
for watching. Please tune in next time and share this video with your friends.